Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that make me. Let's talk about sex. Hey, let's talk about sex. Let's talk. Whoa, girl. What's up, everybody? Thank you for clicking on this video, coming and checking out the intent. Go, move. Go sit down. Coming and checking out the intent, man. I'm super excited to be able to produce content that I feel like is valuable and useful. And if you find this video of any value to you, man, show some love. Like, share, subscribe, send it to a brother or a sister that you know that could find value in this video. And that will continue to encourage me to produce this stuff and really use my gift to be able to deliver value to the people who need it the most, for sure. So today's video, as you can probably tell from the song that I saw coming in, is dun, 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 managing expectations, how promiscuous living taints sex after marriage. Oh man, that's a mouthful. Let me run it back for you. Managing expectations, how promiscuous living taints sex after marriage. So, boom, let's get into it. I have gotten the wifey's grace in a way to share this video. Not that I did. It'd be good to have for sure, but definitely tell my wife I wanted to speak on some topics that I know a lot of brothers are dealing with, and this is one of them for sure. So off the bat, my wife is not my first. Yeah, that's out there. So my wife is not the first person that I had sex with, and I know for many brothers out there who we all have sinned and come short of the Lord's glory. That is the case for them as well in marriage. And what I want to do is kind of unpack. I want to go back and I want to talk about like how a lot of us are introduced. And this video could be a little controversial. It could not be, whatever. But I'm covered by the blood of Jesus Christ, and I think it's important to talk about a lot of things like this that brothers are struggling with. So I want to talk about how, as young men, young black men specifically, which is my experience here in America, we are introduced to sex in an unhealthy way. So let's say, for instance, you grew up, you're watching Disney movies. Let's say Disney specifically, maybe Nickelodeon, Pixar, whatever the case may be. What is genuinely the narrative, right? Like when you're watching the movies, there is a damsel in distress, right? There's a damsel in distress. She is saved by a knight in shining armor. Sometimes the narrative might be that he's this poor guy, he's low down, whatever the case may be. If you watched Aladdin growing up, a Disney movie, I think he was like a street hustler or something like that, or a robber or something like that. And you get the girl who's like a princess and she has high standards, all the things. I'm using the Aladdin example because I think that's a good one. So he's from the streets and she's like a princess, whatever the case may be, and she falls in love with this guy who's totally abstract and different from her. She has high standards because she's a princess, right? You don't really have as many movies that you're going to watch, movies, cartoons, whatever the case may be, where the young guy or the young man he has high standards for himself as a man. And as I'm speaking to this, I'm speaking to my own history and story because I'm only an expert on my own journey. But I have so many brothers and friends who we talk about this stuff as the same thing. We don't really have super healthy depictions of young guys or men in movies that have high standards, be it the women that they choose, how they pursue and take care of themselves, whatever the case may be. I'll never forget, one of my favorite movies, still to this day, one of my favorite movies is the movie Boomerang. Boomerang that came out with Eddie Murphy and Martin was in it. David Allen Greer was in it. Halle Berry was in it. Legendary movie came out, I want to say like 93, 91, might have been 89. It was in that era. And the movie is like this high level corporate executive. He's a marketing executive, whatever the case may be. And he's a lover boy. He's a player. He's getting all the girls. And the conversations that the guys are having, I think Martin is the one that's like kind of extreme. He's like your wild friend. Like if you've watched Drewski's videos, if you're into that, I think I saw a video one time about Drewski and how guys act when girls are around. That would have been Martin in the movie, right? We all know that guy who just do too much when there's women around. And then David Allen Greer's, he was more of your, if you're into the alpha, sigma, beta male, whatever thing, in that movie, he would be more of your, he'll be more of your beta male. He's the guy that's kind of soft spoken. There's a time and place for that too, so not getting into all that. But he's playing that role and that guy. And I never forget growing up how I championed Eddie Murphy's like role. He was a guy who could get all the ladies. He had the high paying role. He had the long trench coat jacket. He was fly, had the good hair, like everything, right? And I think a lot of times the way that we are introduced and taught as young men of our introduction to sex is not healthy. Like if your parents didn't prepare you for your sexual future and telling you what it is actually for, more than just the body parts, but just actually educating you on how to practice self love, how to say no, the things that you need to do as a young person and a young man prior to school, then I personally feel like, especially in today's day and time, then that there has been a dropping of the ball, if you will. And the reason why is I can speak to it in my own life. You have to start early with young men in the world that we have today with how to love themselves, how to set them, why it's important to set themselves apart, why it's important, why monogamy is even important, right? Why it's important to love one woman, to have a family with one woman, to have high standards for themselves and how they choose the women that they interact with and what that actually looks like. And the reason why, there's so many reasons why that's important. We see it in our society today, from the disproportionate statistics for one parent households with single mothers. How many single fathers there are there too? There's a pretty, I know some single fathers. Like it's a pretty healthy number of that too. But just how much better the kids are off when they have two loving, emphasis on loving, not just two people in the house, but two loving, caring adults in the household, a father and a mother inside the household, and how they grow into adults. I think for me, I was talking with, I recently had a daughter. I was talking to another one of my homeboys who recently had a daughter. And I shared a video with him from a guy named Nick Freitas. I'd have to pull up his name to share it with you guys. But it was a video that went viral. He's like an ex Navy SEAL military type of guy. And in the video, he was talking about one of the biggest things he did when he had a daughter was reach out, ask his wife, how should I raise my daughter? What are the things that you needed growing up from your father that helped you to become the amazing woman that you are? And he was saying that, hey, the first reason why I asked her is because she's a woman. I think she would know like what it takes to raise an amazing young girl, young lady to womanhood, right? To one day be somebody's wife, one day be somebody's mother. But most importantly of all those is to be a daughter of Christ, to have a strong relationship with God. And he said the second thing that he did was he went to the biggest man whore that he had ever met in his life. It was a guy he was in the military with, whatever the case may be. He was a ladies' man. He had the good looks, and he used it to his advantage. So I would imagine this guy was, not to put words in his mouth, but I would imagine this guy's a ladies' man. He knew how to talk the talk and walk the walk. He knew how to play that role. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times pretty privilege is not just for women. Pretty privilege is for men too. We can call it handsome privilege, whatever. You can do a little bit more when you look a little bit lighter on the eyes, So he had talked to this guy, and he said the best thing that you can do to make sure that she doesn't end up with a man like me is to make sure you tell her that you love her. Because if you don't tell your daughter that you love her, I will. Or any guy who's in that position who might be manipulative or might not have the best intentions, maybe not like criminal wise, but just like no intentions of marrying her, no intentions of like being serious, whatever the case may be. If you don't tell your daughter you love her growing up and establish that self-love and responsibility in her, what to look for, how to have like a strong individual personality herself, how to be able to stand on her own 10 toes, then the guy was saying basically that's where a guy like me is going to come into the picture. And I thought on one side, being as again me becoming a father to a daughter first, I was like, man, that's so powerful. I've got that video I think saved on my YouTube to watch over and over again because there's so many other things that he touched on there as well. And he did a video on sons. But then also I thought about like a father's love. And I thought about what I would have wanted growing up from the father that I had, who, like many people like me, who grew up in a household where you did have a father, but maybe that father was emotionally absent or he worked all the time. So your relationship might have been frayed because you might have saw that person one or two times a week, which was, somewhat of the case for me for a very early part of my life because it's working like 12-hour shifts. And again, not to go too in detail with certain stuff from family and in respect to them as well, but I have to share a narrative that I know a lot of people have. My wife calls it latchkey kids or something like that. The kids whose parents worked all the time and they loved them, but they had to go out to provide for them with whatever roles or jobs that they had. And the kids were pretty much home, a lot by themselves. And I think to snap it back to the conversation about I'm building up managing expectations and how promiscuous living taints sex after marriage. Like it starts young, man. Like it starts young. For young men, just flat out, let me just go ahead and say it. For young men, a lot of time their first sexual interaction with a woman is typically with a woman who's a lot older than them. Like that's a sad reality that we're seeing more and more come out in conversations and truths of people's stories when they were young. Like, hey, I might have been this age and this person was already in high school or this person was in middle school or whatever the case may be. And you combine that interaction or the courting or the things we see online with grown women twerking on young boys and just the over sexualization of young men that doesn't allow them to just be they skip like from toddler phase to being like these are things we hear. Like we'll hear people say, "Oh, that's my little man." No, it's not. That's a 4-year-old boy. That's somebody's son. That's not your little man. That's not your little boyfriend. That's not your that's my little man right there. Like we would hear these things growing up as young men. And in many cases, unfortunately, for a lot of us, there was no one there who would slap back or really push back against that. They might laugh it off, a parent, an auntie, or whatever. They might, and it might have been your auntie. It might have been your cousin. I don't know, right? Like, God forbid. And I'm sorry to hear some of the stories that I hear. But we didn't have anybody who would step up and say, no, that's not okay. That's not cool. That's not allowed. And if you continue this action around this child, around this young man, around this person, there is going to be some ramifications and some disciplinary action that's going to be taken suit against you. Like in one way, fashion, or form. Maybe we got to get at you in the backyard, or maybe you can't come over no more, cousin such and such, auntie such and such, whatever the case may be. Because what it does early on as a young man is it starts to give you this ego, man. Like it starts there as a young guy. If you thinking like, oh, I'm handsome or hey, I'm this, that, and the third, which is fine to have self-love. Don't get me wrong. But if the way that you love yourself is a way that's unhealthy or it produces a confusion about your identity and your sexuality prematurely, then it leads into by the time you look at these babies now, you look at by the time they turn 12 years old, they having sex. Like 12, 13 years old. Like we look at teenage pregnancies, which I guess would be on more the woman's side, but I mean, it takes two, right? You look at these young guys, you hear the stories of like, I'm in a Black Fathers chat, which is an amazing chat, and across the United States, amazing chat, and there's so much community there. Absolutely love the fact that brothers have a space where we can talk and we can, grow and glean from one another. But some of these stories I hear is like, bro, oh my God, I hope I ain't got to deal with that. Like, it's insane how the overexposure that is happening to our young men is spilling over into, as we're seeing it spill over into our community between fatherlessness to dysfunctional homes, to people who have no even intention of being with one another. It was just a quick fling or something, no intention. But now this child has to suffer as a result of a one night stand, or y'all just kicking it, y'all just cooling it, y'all just talking, whatever the case may be. And that's a person's life. I think one of the things that I find so shocking and dysfunctional, I can't believe our society is like this now, is that it's seemingly, the culture seemingly says that it's better to have a child out of wedlock or with somebody you have no intentions or being with for a lifetime or whatever the case may be. It's better to have a child out of wedlock than it is to have than to be married, to have a child after marriage, to be in a household. Is that as long as you paying the bills, as long as you have money, come on, we can touch on that too, have affordability, that you can just have a child. And it's just like, bro, no, it's so much more that goes into it. It's so much more of your activity and what you do, not what you say with kids, but what you do, what you demonstrate says far more about you as a parent, says far more about you as an individual than anything you can buy or give. Like, we see that all the time with people who are overcompensating for their kids and giving them everything they possibly want and ask for. But the thing they won't give them the most is a conversation. Thing they won't give them the most is going to the park, teaching them how to ride a bike, teaching them how to read a book, teaching them how to read, like spending quality time with that individual in person. So that's a flash forward. I'm a flash back to the sex part because I'm building up the story. This video might be a little whatever. Just keep rocking with me. I'm going somewhere. So you have a young boy who's already being exposed to movies, TV, television, now Instagram, YouTube, whatever. That's an over-sexualized world. That young man is being fetishized by older women who are in the community, could be at school, could be at church, could be at football games, basketball games, whatever the case may be, by hearing these things that are planting seeds in that young man that aren't healthy seeds of how he should view himself or his sexuality. And then when they actually get to puberty, so let's say that 12, that 13 years old age, where like you got hormones that are now starting to come into play, these kids are ready to explore, if they already haven't, what they've already been seeing. And they're exploring without a GPS, if you will. Now, I can say a GPS in this metaphor could be many things. It could be having a strong relationship with Christ. So a family that eats together on Sunday, goes to church together, reads and studies the Bible as a family, a unit wherein there has been built in that individual a moral compass and conversations with a father or a mother about how they should be viewing sex or the things that they're trying to explore that would help them to navigate a space that they have no experience or context actually in for the outcome, but they at least have something built into them that they're I won't say ready. I will not say ready. Built in them so that they at least have a moral compass of knowing that this is wrong and the position that they're in as a young person, and that it is for adults. That's just me. That's Kobe. That may not be for everybody else out there. You may not like it. Cool. But I truly believe that the act of sex, the act of of conception, of having a child is for adults, man. There's so many decisions that you got to make on behalf of your spouse. There's so many decisions that, bro, it is made for that reason. I truly believe it. And was I that person? I'm never going to sit here and say I'm not a flawed person. Heck no. I was not that person. I was an athlete in school. I was in nightlife for majority of my life through college, whatever. I was definitely a guy who was not living to my fullest potential for the Lord. And that is why I record these videos, or I record this video and I say to my young men who might watch this and my brothers who I talk to now, we say, hey, when you get married, that ish don't just turn off. You see, I had to check that. I ain't cussing on the channel. That ish don't just stop. You have to like really have Christ come into your heart. I believe, my faith, I'm a Christian. Christ come into your heart and change your heart, which means changing your desires, changing your will, changing your heart to do bad or to just do sin in general, which you'll never be 100% perfect. But there's a lot of things that you can kill. by the power of the Holy Spirit. There's some things in your life that are troubling you. I'm probably gonna get preachy, but I'm gonna be real. Pornography, something big that brothers are struggling with. Listen to these testimonies of brothers who got off of that. That really struggle with pornography, or guys who were exposed to sex and pornography when they were young, or being fetishized by older women when they were young, and had struggles with that growing up, how they were able to finally overcome that or wean themselves off of that so that they could become a loving husband to one woman, to one woman, three times to one woman, because we got a whole thing now where it don't even make sense. Guys trying to have all these different women and they can't even take care of one fully, and that's just real. Like the amount of time, intention, and care and understanding that it takes to love one woman in a new way every day. It's one of the most rewarding, but one of the most discipline required things that you can do and honorable things you can do is to love one woman, have a solid woman. Boy, God, dog, don't give me 10, give me one. Give me a real one. Got one. So back to the point there. You look at these things and how it builds up to this guy. And if you're thinking that, hey, well, shoot, I'm going to get married one day and I'm out here in the streets every weekend, every white party, every black party, every college event, every homecoming, and you just out here swinging. If you're not putting in the time and intentionality in your personal life, such that you should have, you should have enough going in your own life that you don't even really have time to be entertaining 7, 8 women in text messages. Let's be real. What kind of woman is going to allow you to give her only part of your time to begin with? Let's be real. Like we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk. Like that goes back to the whole high standards for self as a young man. That goes back to the whole high standards of like, who do you even want to be associated with? When I talk to my young mentees, or I talk to my little cousins, whatever the case may be, I encourage them, like, yeah, if you dating or whatever, man, date a young woman and really get to know her. You know what I'm saying? The people talk about dating all these different other people. You can have friends first. Have friends, have some young ladies you cool with. You and your guys go out, y'all go out in groups and y'all do fun stuff. That's how you really get to see, not just dinner, go spend hundreds of dollars of money you don't have, especially if you're in college or high school or whatever. Y'all go out to arcades, like we did growing up. Go to the movie theater in groups or whatever. Go do bumper cars. If you're in college or whatever, you're a little bit older, maybe you got you're a better job, you got cars and stuff. Y'all go on the trip to somewhere. The girls stay in one room or whatever. The guys stay in another room. Y'all go do the trapeze, the things that like do fun activities. Go outside. Go explore. That will tell you more about someone's character, more about that person and that individual by y'all doing actual activities than ever sitting across from just a dinner table. I promise you, 100%. You get out in an athletic event or go to the gym or something like that with someone, that's going to tell you so much more about that person and that individual. And that gives you an opportunity to really facet and see the quality of, this is for young women and young men, of the individual that you're speaking to. Like actually do something besides just scrolling Instagram or whatever the case may be, whatever people are doing today. But to kind of get back, I know it's a long video, but to kind of get back to how it affects and it taints you going into marriage, hopefully y'all got a clear picture so far. So now I'm going to show you what you're looking at. So now you got this guy who's found the right lady, amazing, that he wants to settle down with, but he's had this full life experience of numerous or multiple women at beck and call, whatever the case may be. And he's trying to turn off a light switch that the world, entertainment, news, media, fashion, everything the world is saying is that sex is for the taking. It's free flowing in the world. You don't need discipline. You don't need accountability. You don't have to turn off your desires. Or you don't have to focus on Christ. You can just whatever. And even if you're married, you can still have you a little nookie on the side. That is what the world is saying. It is a detrimental message. And somebody has to be honest and say that it's one that's damaging our community. It's one that's causing a lot of turmoil for the kids, causing a lot of hurt, causing a lot of confusion. And I challenge that brother to, in the solution of this, to get help. Go to therapy, go to counseling. I've done this myself. I'm not saying anything that I haven't done as far as trying to help myself to understand where that sinful nature or that promiscuousness comes from, how to manage it. One of the most attractive things you can do as a man, I truly believe, is to be able to have your sexual nature in check. That's one, like, if you've ever met a guy who was truly like all over the place in business and in life, and trying to do business with a guy who's all over the place, it is one of the most daunting things because they have no discipline in their personal life or what they body and who they deal with, and it spews over more often than not into every other aspect of their life. Koa, leave the camera alone. Go, go. I'm sorry, y'all. It spews over into other areas of their life. I can tell you more often than not, and I'm sure some guys could comment below about this. Like, once you master the war of your hormones and getting that in check, it will bless so many other areas of your life. But you gotta be willing to go along that journey of getting better or fighting against that thing, killing those. I got a kill crew shirt on. Killing those problems or issues that you have in your life, understanding where they stem from, so that you can get to the good stuff. There's nothing more beautiful or powerful than two people who have committed their lives to each other in the bedroom. 100%. If there's ever a question coming from this video, well, just you talking about all this stuff beforehand, is it just whack after marriage? No, 100%. Sex is way better after marriage. I'll tell you why. Because you're both together in a mission in life. You're both in a position where you can go all the way. If you know what I'm saying, like, you can go all the way, and it's oxytocin as opposed to dopamine. Everything before marriage that you do is just for the height or the excitement or the thrill of a new lady or some new experience, whatever the case may be. But after marriage, when you're off of the dopamine and you're starting to build on oxytocin, which is that's the love chemical. That's the strongest of all those different means and whatever they call them. Like, that's the strongest one, bro. It's different. You won't even need all the things. If you're truly in love, you truly find the one, all the stuff that you was doing, you was out there in the streets or whatever the case may be, bro, you won't even need those actions. You won't even need those positions. You won't even need all of that when you're with the one, when you're building with the one. And that's the thing. You got to build with the one. Like, the idea of the video and what I was talking about, how it taints sex after marriage, is because oftentimes that promiscuous living creates a image or idea of what you think a great sex life is. And then when you get to marriage and you really learn this woman, you're with this woman 24 hours of the day if you work from home, or you're with them for the majority of the time. You see how they live. You see their emotions, their attitude, the things they go through. It's not the same as prior to this person who you just met at a nightclub or something that's already on who God knows what, alcohol, whatever the case may be, and y'all go and bang it out. Yeah, it's going to be different. You're not with her for the other, if you're with that woman for 1 hour, you're not with her for the other 23 hours of that woman's day. It's going to change when you're with that person. Now, after marriage, what a lot of dudes do or they mess up on, and even myself in the beginning, I had to really come to a grips of understanding, how do I learn my woman? How do I bring out the best in her? Like, not just in the bedroom, but in every other hour of that day, every other waking moment with this person, individual. How do I feed into her spirit and her soul? Not for a selfish reason of what I could get back, but to build this kingdom of the household that we have. Because that woman's going to give you back whatever you give her tenfold. 100%. Whatever you give a woman, Dr. Miles Monroe once said this, whatever you give a woman, she's going to multiply and give it back to you. You're giving her negative feedback. You're giving her insecurity. You're not making her feel protected, secured, loved, and led. You're going to get disruption, attitude, whatever back. You're making that woman feel safe. You're making that woman feel whole. You're making that woman feel protected, provided for, and feel good. Bruh, you gonna be you gonna be all right. I ain't gotta go through all, bro. You gonna be taken care of. You gonna be all right. So like really with this video, what I hope that I conveyed, and I don't know how long it is, but I feel like I gave what was needed, is what kind of like creates the monster? What creates the savage? You know, what creates the unfortunate events that take place early on that impact the young man to become promiscuous young men, to become the player, whatever the case may be. And then the switch that needs to happen for that man as an individual to then turn that off and become the man that God has called him to be and be in marriage, and not bring those negative connotations or to bring those unrealistic images and views of what sex life should be after marriage, or images of what that should be in marriage, and ruin what he has. I would end by saying the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. The Bible says that Christ came to give us life and have it more abundantly. To have an abundant life, you have to make sure that you are doing the proper work that's needed. Core move. That you're doing the proper work that's actually needed to focus on your marriage, build your marriage, and let those vices, let those old attitudes, those old ideas, those old activities stay where they're at, so they're not poisoning your future and your marriage with the woman that you want to marry. For my engaged brothers that might watch this, or for my brothers that are married, like who are watching this and are like, hey, like what I might be struggling with these thoughts, or I might be struggling with this pornography, or whatever the case may be. Don't allow that poison to come into a clear vase and glass of water that God's giving you with marriage, and shape it to be something that it's not supposed to be. Take control of your household. We've been called to be protector, provider, and priest, and you have the capabilities to do it, but you got to do it with Christ. You got to do it through the power of the Holy Spirit, man. So I hope this video was good. I hope it gave a lot of context. I'll probably do a video like this again. I hope dog wasn't wilding out too much, but man, I'm honored, truly honored to sit here and have these conversations with the camera with you guys, and just provide value, man, as we all are on this pursuit of becoming better and being better, and trying to lead our households in the right direction. So God bless you. If this gave you value, man, make sure that you share, like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and until next time, thank you for checking out The Intent.